trying to tell a story for a while, and I had to write it down, or I had to type it up, because I just get so sidetracked with like new possibilities every time I try and tell it. But in the last year, I had a dream that will actually stick with me forever, and I think it might have led to an intuitive initiation, is what I'll call it. This is my dad. His name is David. I make this little picture for you. Okay. My father was a carpenter in Chicago, and he died from an overdose on June 12th, 2004. However, the records say June 13th. I just find that part interesting. I also find it interesting that they waited to do his autopsy, and it was too late to find anything in his bloodstream. On his death certificate, the cause says undetermined, but we now know what really happened. That's a story for another time. In my dream, I was walking in Nassau, Bahamas with my uncle, my father's brother. This part of the dream is something that actually happened in real life, because my great aunt took the entire family on a cruise, who is also now crossed or passed away. And I just want to say I love you, Aunt Gwen. We were walking around the little shops, and all of a sudden my stepdad's brother appeared, who passed away in the last year, but it was after this dream. This dream I had, I want to say, early 2025, late 2024. And I've been trying to interpret it for a long time. But anyways, my stepdad's brother was there, and he passed away from an accident this past summer, and this dream happened before that. Somehow, I ended up on the opposite side of the market from my family, but I was still within walking distance, and I could see them. My stepdad's brother began talking to my father's brother. I don't quite understand the meaning of that part yet, but the next thing I knew, it was like I had been sucked under a coat rack, if you can imagine. I was like, whew. I then found myself standing on a foggy, vacant street in Chicago. There were buildings, no people, but just nothing, no sign of life other than the apartment buildings and stuff. I was confused and terrified that I had just left my family behind, but I soon forgot when I looked to my right and saw my father standing about 500 or 600 feet from me. I ran to him, and he ran to me. I can still feel the embrace when I think about it. It was the most beautiful and painful feeling in the world. I've never felt more safe, and I've never felt more safe in the physical realm either. We hugged for what felt like forever, but not long enough. He pulled away, and he smiled at me. So, this part I do have to, kind of show. So, he, ran up to me with a smile on his face, and he hugged me, and I hugged him back, and I felt the pressure. It was real. It was real. And he pulled away, and his smile went from, I wasn't there. Not in a bad way, but, he could see through me because I was no longer there to him. Okay, so, after his face went blank, I then realized I had been saying, Dad. How? Where were you? Screaming, sobbing now. And the entire time we were hugging, I realized that he had not said a word at all. Most would describe this as a bad sign, but the way he looked at me with such love in his eyes before his face went to a resting position told me that he had to do this one task. That's the best word I could find to describe it. A defined task. And I believe that was showing me a sign that I've been asking for years, other than my spirit box videos, which I'm still trying to interpret how to make sense of that if this happened. So, he turned around and walked back to where I had first seen him before we ran to greet one another. This time, when he reached that spot, he took a right and entered a building. I followed him, screaming, Dad, where are you going? Why are you leaving me? And he couldn't hear me. His focus was fixed on a flight of stairs. It felt and looked like the stairwell of a parking garage, like Chicago. If you've ever been in a parking garage, you know what I'm talking about. I said an indoor fire escape, but it was yellow concrete walls. I found one Google image that looks sort of similar. I've tried to draw it. I've tried to make this video so many times. But I'm glad I have it in writing now. I don't know how many flights of stairs I chased him up before he reached the top, but I couldn't walk up the final step or set of stairs where he stood because there was a physical barrier blocking me from going forward. I was a disaster. I was it was there was a chain there, but it wasn't about the chain. No problem. Okay, if I wanted to move that chain, it would have been fine. Or I wouldn't have made it through anyway. I'm saying I was physically being pushed back, held back. Not I know how people take this and they assume it's negative right away, and they'll say it's not your dad. That's not your dad. I know it was. Okay, thank you. Anyways, I was wailing. I remember the cries because it was the kind of panic you feel when experiencing near death or a completely devastating and uncontrollable situation. I kept yelling, and still he couldn't hear me. I kept trying to push past the invisible barrier, but I could not do it for the life of me. I never once let my eyes move from him. It finally sank in that I wasn't going past that last flight of stairs, and I watched him. It was slow. This part was slow motion. The whole second part of this was the dream of slow motion. The part with my family went very quick. So once I realized I wasn't gonna be able to get up the stairs, I kind of just watched him, and I was screaming this entire time, please don't leave me. So he opened the door. I was okay, why is he walking onto a parking garage or something? No, it wasn't a parking garage. Hold on. So I was confused. I was why is he just walking out onto this roof, just some random outdoor area? And then I realized, no. Because when I told my best friend about this dream, who is highly intuitive, we started to make sense of the ending as I was telling. And I realized that the way that the light was hitting him when he opened that door to walk out, it was different. It wasn't just daylight. Do you know what I mean? He walked into the light, and the dream ended. But there was something I noticed that will stick with me forever. This is the part that I will never, ever forget. And I think it was a little Easter egg he left me or something. I almost want to get it tattooed, but I kept trying to remember as I was telling my best friend what the exit sign said, because it didn't say exit. I was E, it was an E. And then finally, I remembered that the sign said enter. The exit sign said enter. The exit sign said enter. Right above the door as he walked through. I remember looking up, looking down, the door was closed. And the dream ended. It was one of those liminal, it was the actual room. the dream ended there. The child inside of me was still screaming and trying to push past the barrier. I'm still screaming, but now with the strength that I've gained over the years. My clairs have been activating beyond what meets the eye, and I realize I cannot go up the stairs because doing so would have meant that I too would have crossed over and walked into the light. He would not allow that, and neither would Source. These days, I know this meant that the veil is very thin for someone like me, especially since he glanced in my direction, but not directly at me. And the fact that I couldn't go past in the sign, just everything, just the moment I was on that street. I'm sure I have relatives who have experienced dreams like this, and I'm sure people have experienced dreams like this about their loved ones. I believe his death left an imprint on my soul's path, not only myself, but my soul's path. And by slowly unraveling this over time, he's helped me find the strength to work toward my dreams. And I've also received confirmation that he left me with the gift of what I call heightened intuition. I know many of my loved ones think I'm crazy for believing this and the spirit box and all that stuff, but there's no job title for my goals other than creative musical mystic or intuitive guide as of right now. But I like to say that I have become a student and a vessel for Source, symbolism, spellcraft, spirit, and sound. And if you resonate with the energy of this video, or if you feel called to, just leave a comment. And honestly, if you've had any experiences with loved ones that have passed away, I would love to hear it. I just wanted to share. So